Thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY video. I have with me today Terri Hiskey, the Vice President of Product Marketing at Epicor in the manufacturing sector. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, could you please tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Epicor?
Sure. I am Vice President of our global product marketing team for our manufacturing products. So that includes products like Epicor ERP, our MatTech MES solution, our CMS solution, and our add-on products like our analytics solution, Epicor Data Analytics, and then Epicor Commerce Connect, which is our e-commerce suite, as well as a number of other solutions.
Sure. Well, and that's a broad portfolio.
Yes. Well, I have a great team that helps me out.
Now, we're here at the Epicor Insights 2018 conference, and it's now the third day, so there's been lots of opportunity, I guess, to hear from speakers and to speak to your customers. But before we get to that, what's the manufacturing sector like in the US? I mean, we always hear these stories about manufacturing going to China, but it must have been a bit of a resurgence, and how does it compare with the rest of the world? And do you know anything about manufacturing in Australia?
Yeah, I've got several answers. So manufacturing in the States, I think is actually on a bit of an upswing. They talk a lot in the press about a manufacturing resurgence in America, and of course our president talks about, bringing jobs back and things like that.
Sure.
I don't know how much his impact has had, but I know the sector in general kind of plods on regardless of who's in charge. But I believe that there is a lot of resurgence happening, and I think it's because of all of these new technologies that are being introduced into manufacturing now that are now becoming affordable and accessible, especially to our target market of small and mid-sized manufacturers.
And that wouldn't just be various types of automation that are freeing up people to do more important jobs, but also the software that you're selling, which is helping customers to revitalize their operations from a cloud centralized point of view.
Correct. I mean, something like an ERP, if you want to leverage these new technologies that are becoming more and more accessible, affordable, like IoT, having a mobile capabilities, various things like that, you need to have a backbone or an infrastructure in place that is able to take all of this data that is being collected and do something with that data, to house it and to analyze it and to push that workflow through. It's really important to have that ERP system in place. So what a lot of customers, and not just in place, but cloud is also a big part of that discussion, because cloud enables all of those things to connect much more easily. So I would say that a lot of our manufacturers are kind of looking at their ERP strategies now, and how can their ERP support all of these new manufacturing innovations that are happening so that they can take advantage of these innovations and take advantage of things like automation. As you said, we are certainly seeing lots of use cases of automation replacing workers because they're tired and of doing repetitive tasks. And frankly, it's not even whether or not there are workers that you could place in more strategic situations. In the US anyways, we are suffering a serious gap where people are just retiring, and we can't even hire people into those positions anymore. And so a lot of companies are forced to now consider automation to fill those spots, because as you're trying to hire new workers, and most of them are of the millennial generation, they want to be more strategic. They want to have direction. They're not satisfied with doing the same thing over and over again. And so, it's the onus is upon companies, upon manufacturers then to provide those incoming workers with a newer, modern experience, a new software to use, new technology to use in order to retain these workers, and in order to attract them and then retain them and give them some sort of career path, because they're not just happy with the status quo. They want to make sure, if I'm with this company, I'm learning something, I'm learning a skill that I enjoy, that is fun, and that is going to help me with my career path forward.
Yeah, the joke is always that the millennials want to get out of uni and go straight to the CEO's position.
Exactly. One use case, or one kind of example of this is we had one of our manufacturing customers talk about how they had this kind of older implementation of ERP, about 10 years old. They had a guy that was in charge of this implementation who was getting ready to retire, and so they were considering, we're going to upgrade when he leaves, because he's kind of put in place of that. In the meantime, they went and hired a millennial worker who was intended to be his replacement to help with the transition. That worker stayed a day. One day. He looked at that old software that was tied to a desktop that
Yeah.
he was not able to access from the web or from his phone.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And so that customer came to us at Insights, and we've had meetings about this, about it's not just about automating my processes for profitability or productivity. I need to get people hired. And in order to get them hired, I need to offer them a modern user experience that people can use touch screens, that they can access that information on their mobile phone, on their tablet, and you guys, meaning us, Epicor, we need to provide that experience to them. And so we've heard that. And, in some of our main sessions with Leanne Schomer and Scott Hayes, they talked about how we surveyed our customer base, and usability was a huge part of that. And I think that kind of the interesting thing digging into it, it's not just about the users want a better experience. We have to provide that experience in order to get the workers in.
And that was part of the push with the kinetic UI and UX design?
Exactly. That was exactly the thought behind that, is that we need to offer that very kind of consumer looking, easy to use experience. I mean, another customer and I were joking around that, the days are gone of these ERP implementations that you used to send your team away for like a week to train on how to use ERP. Can you imagine downloading an app on your phone and expecting a week's training on how to use it? No.
You figured out by the end of the day, if not the end of the first hour.
As soon as you click it, if you can't figure it out, forget it. I'm going to delete it off of my phone. And so that's, the onus is on companies like Epicor and other software providers to now figure out how to provide that experience, especially with complex software like ERP. We have to simplify the experience for the user to make it easier, more accessible. That's the only way you're going to get scale within your company, and that's the only way that, your adoption is going to grow too. People, the reason a lot of ERP implementations kind of stall is that it's too hard to learn. So you get kind of the first wave of people, and then after that, people are like, I don't know how to deal with this, and then it just kind of stops. But if you give somebody an easy experience, something that is engaging and simple to use, it'll scale. Other people will use it. Other people will talk about, this ERP system is different. You can use it on a touch screen. It's excellent, and that creates excitement. I think that actually helps with, implementations and rolling things out as well.
And from the millennials' point of view, I mean, I guess being born in the 70s, I must be a pre-millennial. And the ones that are being born today are post-millennials.
You're right.
But from the millennials' point of view, I mean, they've grown up in a world of responsive UI from mobiles and tablets and phones, and we take it for granted. And so if you see something, you would like, well, what's that? How come it hasn't been updated? It's almost like, how come it's taken till 2018? But it has.
Right.
And as you were saying, a lot of people they did their digital transformation 10 years ago.
Right.
But that ERP system is now totally out of date.
Exactly.
So, and as I've been speaking to with other people, you've got the upgrade capabilities, whether it's from earlier versions of Epicor or competing software. And we're at a stage where that's much easier than before. And you guys are seeing the fruits of your labors coming through in the success of your customers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I can get back to your question
Sure.
about Australia
Please.
as well,
That's right.
and what we're
Remember.
seeing.
Yeah, please.
So it's interesting is we're actually seeing Australia right now as a hotbed for cloud technology, and that Australia for us anyways is one of the markets internationally that we're expanding with cloud. We had a big announcement at the conference this week about our partnership with Microsoft Azure. Australia was actually a market that we were already aligned with Azure in, and I think that our success with cloud customers and the interest and momentum that's been generated in Australia is because we've already were aligned with Microsoft with that partnership. And so, we're seeing a lot of manufacturing interest from Australia. They want to do everything themselves, they want to, keep it in country, but it seems to me, at least, the prospects and sales that are coming in are, they're not as hesitant to look at innovative new technology. They don't seem to be as worried about, stability or what's going to happen. In fact, they want to.
They just want to get on with it.
Exactly. They want to see what these technologies can do for them. Exactly.
So, as we were saying before, it's day 3 of the conference. Are there any other highlights that you want to share, or any other customer interactions that you want to mention?
It's for me, this conference is all about those customer interactions. Those are always the highlights for me. And so hearing a lot of, and I'm a tech geek and I love, the stories about what customers are doing. And so, to see companies like London Electric Vehicle Company and what they're doing with their connected factory, and to see what Bors has done
It's impressive
as
to
well.
see those keynote demos of the gloves and the drones. And
Exactly. I love that stuff. And, to get to talk to customers like Sistema, which is based in New Zealand. I actually had a chance to meet with the CIO from Sistema at an event last year, and we've kind of continued the conversation. And I love their story about how, it wasn't that they had a problem with an aging workforce. They had no workforce. They couldn't get enough, bodies in their factory hired to help with the capacity in their factory. So they were forced to turn to automation. And so they were almost, forced to create their own, factory of the future with automation and everything is in the cloud. They're not cloud, sorry, but everything is automated and connected. And so I think that seeing the progress of what they're doing at Sistema is fascinating. And I love the fact that, they had to bootstrap it. We were forced to use technology because there was no alternative.
And they're an example of a company that if they're not on the cloud, they've got on-prem solutions.
Exactly.
And they're quite happy with that. And whenever they do want to go to the cloud, well, it'll be an even more mature experience waiting for them.
Exactly.
When they're ready to do that.
And they are using some cloud-based solutions, like they are using Epicor Data Analytics, which sits on top of their ERP solution. They're one of our first adopters or testing right now, as we're coming out with a connector to Matec MES. So it'll be ERP plus MES plus Epicor Data Analytics, which is coming out this fall. And they've been heavily involved in helping us kind of scope and figure out how to connect those systems, because that's what they're doing.
And obviously that benefits all the other manufacturers down the line who want to do the same thing.
Exactly.
So as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to ask three different things. One is, where do you see, with all the advancements that we've seen over the past few years, how do you see things evolving over the next decade? What might Epicor of 2028 look like, and where will we be? Maybe because we've gone to the cloud, maybe we'll be in the next galaxy by then, technologically.
I think that I think all of these technologies we're seeing now, my prediction in 10 years is that you're going to see the price come down on all of those things. You're going to see those products become much more accessible. It's going to be something that small and mid-sized companies, right now we're in this stage that people are proving the value of those technologies. I think in 10 years we will have gotten over that hump, and it will be, table stakes to be able to link into and plug into all of these new technologies, which in 10 years won't be new technologies. No. Again, it'll be like the standard. So I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more connected factory, a lot more automation, much more kind of user-friendly analytics and business intelligence. And it's going to be not just historical kind of data, but very predictive and looking out on your supply chain and looking out on, sales and forecasting and things like that. And so in 10 years, I think that we're going to be, a bit more predictive about what we're doing. So yeah, I think, right now we're in the exciting time because we're seeing the potential of all of these. In 10 years, I think we will have gotten over that, and people will have already starting to see, returns on investment and savings and productivity and all of that, profitability.
We might be at Industry 5.0 by then.
We could be. We very well could be.
So my second last question is always to ask if you could please share what some of the best advice you've received to help you get where you are today.
Some of the best advice I've received, I've got a couple of things.
Please.
One is my very first boss told me the most valuable thing that an employee can be is resourceful. Don't, if you have a problem, come back and think of 3 or 4 solutions and, let me figure out which one is the best instead of always expecting other people to come up with an issue.
Take the initiative rather than waiting for instructions.
Exactly. The second one is a positive attitude goes a really long way. And I have believed that over my career. It's helped me get through a lot of bumpy meetings with customers and a lot of not so pleasant, product reviews and things like that. So I think a positive attitude gets you, a long way. And I think, the third thing is don't let things intimidate you. And I give this advice to a lot of customers when they, especially small and mid-sized companies that are like, I don't know about drones. Like, how am I supposed to take this technology and apply it? Or I don't know about IoT. And it's like, you know what? Take a step back. You don't have to boil the ocean. You can do things in very small increments. Your digital transformation doesn't have to be this end-to-end kind of thing. Start small, take things in small chunks, and just go one step at a time. You know, you can start your journey of IoT just by putting a sensor on a machine, right? And seeing how that data feeds back to your system, and seeing what that can do for helping you save time, save labor, be more productive. And then once you have that figured out, you can start rolling it out. But again, it doesn't have to be a big bang. You can start small. And so I think that that's, you know, I've had that advice as well when it seems like I've had projects that are like, oh, I can never do this. Well, you know what? Just do one task at a time, one step at a time, and it'll get done.
So what's your final message to ITY readers and viewers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
Well, I think we have a tagline here: the future is cloud. I think that that's where the industry is going. But if you're not ready to go there yet, you know, one of the differentiators for Epicor is that we can be your partner. We can start you on your journey again with small steps. And if cloud is something that you're not ready for, that you know your company hasn't embraced yet, but you know that, you know, eventually the industry is going to get there, don't worry. We will help you get there every step of the way. So that's what I'd like to leave you with.
Well, Terri, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thank you.